Hello and welcome everyone to the Amateur Commentator. Today we are bringing you a new episode on Formula 1 this time. We have been doing a lot of episodes on cricket, but the Formula 1 season starts in a couple of days, and we think this is the right time to kickstart our podcast on Formula 1. So, before moving forward, I would request everyone to kindly like, share, subscribe our content, give us your feedback, and tell us how we can improve. Hello, Anshul. Hi. Let's start with your views on last year's championship. I guess you have a lot to say about that.
Thanks, Amit. I believe my T-shirt says a lot about in terms of what my biased opinion would be. But see, yes, a lot has been spoken and written about, what happened during the Abu Dhabi race in the last season. I have two different views here. When we talk about Abu Dhabi as a race, what happened should not have happened. It's as simple as that. Based on how Hamilton was driving, based on how Verstappen was driving, or in fact, any other drivers were driving the last race, I think the clear-cut winner or the deserved winner for that particular race was Hamilton. Saying that, the outcome of the season, I am not disappointed. In fact, I'll not say I'm thrilled because the way in which it ended. But to be honest, if we are considering, the performance of all the drivers throughout the season, I would not say that Verstappen is not a deserving winner. He has led more number of laps across the races throughout the season. He has scored more number of poles. He won more number of races. So in terms of deserving winner, I would say yes, Verstappen is a deserving winner. But what happened in the final race was probably not the right outcome, I would say. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think Michael Masi tried to make the race as fair as possible, make the championship as fair as possible. It was a close championship and something that I guess we got after quite a long time. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was in 2008 when it was Hamilton's first championship actually, when he won it by 1 point against Felipe Massa, and that was quite interesting. This was almost at that level, even better. Saying that, I think maybe he could have gone for a red flag and a standing start at that point of time with 2 laps to go. A lot of people have suggested that. But I think at the end of the day, the guy who drove consistently better throughout the season won. And well, as a Michael Schumacher fan, I can only say that tough luck, Lewis. Try catching another time.
See, I agree on most of the points which you said, but one thing I would not agree is the word which you used, fair. I'm not sure if fair is the right word I would like to use, because when we talk about, say, for example, Silverstone, or when we talk about, say, for an example, Hungary, or for that matter, Brazil, when the laws are such that even if you're taking a new engine, the additional power which you are getting may not be directly subsidized by just penalizing you by starting at the last position, because by the time Brazil Grand Prix happened, Red Bull and Mercedes were very close to each other in the tracks, while they were racing. But post the engine change in Brazil Grand Prix, Hamilton was altogether in a very different league. The fans of Hamilton may say that he is the best driver and he's showing the class when he's put under pressure, but I'm not sure if that's the entire story there. Yes, additional new power setup helps. So I would stop before using the word fair. And fair from the racing point of view, I'll not say that. But what I believe Michael Masi was trying to do is not ending the championship race and the final race of the season, which potentially is the championship decider, behind the yellow flags. So I believe that is the thing which he was trying to do more than fair, because fair might not be the best word for the last season.
Whatever happened, he did lose his job at the end of the day. So yeah, my sympathies with Michael Masi. So let's move on to this season. We just finished watching the practice session at Bahrain. So, what are your initial thoughts? How are things shaping up for your favorite team and for the rest of the grid?
See, one thing I'm very excited about this season is we are not sure who will be among the top 5 or top 6 when the qualifying season session happens tomorrow. So that is one thing, a very positive sign, according to me. The second positive sign is we have drivers from Alfa Romeo, we have drivers from Haas who are actually clocking better times than Lewis Hamilton. I'm not sure whether that's a function of how Mercedes is not currently performing the best what they can do, or whether it's just that Haas and Alfa Romeo were able to do much better job with their engine, having stopped the development of their 21 car entirely in the last season. But that is a very promising thing from the racing point of view, I would say, because we'll have multiple drivers fighting for a single position. Ferrari is looking very good, to be honest. A lot of people are talking about that Ferrari will be a main contender, as we also spoke about, to the Red Bull as comparison to Mercedes. But it's very early, I would say. So, what's your opinion? Then maybe probably we can discuss about individual teams one by one. What is your opinion as overall, whatever we have seen in the preseason testing and in the Bahrain practice session?
So in Bahrain, I think it has been quite clear that Ferrari is looking pretty good, pretty solid this time around. They had a pretty bad 2020. 2021, it was fairly well. Sainz did well, so did Leclerc. But this time, it does look like they've got their act together. They are looking pretty strong. I would say the strongest among all three. I mean, Verstappen topped the charts in the second practice, but as a team, I think Ferrari is looking the stronger team. Saying that, you talked about Alfa Romeo. I think Valtteri Bottas would be loving his new environment. I think he did play I'd say great wingman role for Lewis Hamilton. He's 32 now. He would like to take a lead position. He couldn't finish the first practice. The second, in the second practice he clocked fourth best or fifth best time. Looks good for him. Haas surprisingly did well, much better than it was expected, I would say. So yeah, I think I'm excited as a Ferrari fan. I am looking forward to it. I'm looking to see how Charles Leclerc competes with Max Verstappen. Sainz also looked good. So yeah, looking forward to a great season.
So let's take one by one, teams and the drivers in terms of how they performed in the preseason and the practice session and what we are expecting out of them. So let's start with Williams. So what do you feel about the current drivers and the surrounding and what is happening with the Williams teams?
Yeah, they kind of looked the weakest, I would say, didn't they? They had one of the lowest in the free practice. They had clocked one of the lowest number of laps among all the teams, if I remember correctly. I like Alex Albon. I think he's a very good driver, but I'm not sure. Like coming back to F1 after a year, and that too in a Williams car, and it's actually sad to see what's happening with Williams because they just don't seem to be improving, and it just seems to be going downhill. I see them struggling throughout the season. I don't think they have a good car right at this moment, and I don't see that Latifi and Albon doing anything with that car.
I think it's too early for Alex Albon here, for Williams, because he's getting into a new environment, a very different car. So I would say it will take some time, maybe 3 or 4 or maybe 5 races for him to get settled into the car and what he can expect out of the machinery in the live race scenario, because testing is an entirely separate ball game versus when you are driving the Grand Prix. So I would still believe that Alex Albon may pull off some races where he might be able to score few points for Williams. But in terms of I'm expecting out of Nicholas Latifi, I would still feel that Alex Albon will outperform his teammate at an overall season level. Maybe not initially in the first 3, 4, 5 races, but at an overall level, definitely yes.
Just one more point. Last year we did see Josh Capito try some new strategy to get some kind of points, and he almost succeeded with George Russell. Actually, Russell also did quite well in a few races. This time around, can Albon actually match what Russell did last time? I'm not sure, but in Josh Capito they have a good canny operator. So more than the driver, more than the car, I think it will all depend on how the team principal actually strategizes, and maybe they could get some points out of those. That's my view of Williams actually.
Yeah, you actually the point which you talked about Russell, Alex Albon has to match at least the qualifying performance, because that's where the Saturday where Williams were the strongest. Maybe not in most of the races. They were still able to score a few points. They were able to score a podium thanks to the weather in one of the races last season. But probably I would hold on to at least initially 3 to 4 races before making a complete judgment about Williams, where they are heading into. So yeah, that's my take. Let's talk about Aston Martin. So a lot of hopes were pinned down when they signed up Vettel for the last season after they rebranded from Racing Point. Although he's not racing in the first race because of COVID, Nico Hülkenberg is taking his place. But what do you make about in terms of the car and what they have done for the new season?
So first of all, it was great to see Nico Hülkenberg back with Aston Martin. I mean, he has driven for that team when it was Force India, then when it was Racing Point, and now with Aston Martin. I think when Vettel joined Aston Martin, he was hoping to score a bit more points than what he did last time. He was looking for a competitive car. I believe Aston Martin are here for the long run. They are here to challenge for championship. It's way too early. I know they are looking forward to competing with the Ferraris, with the Mercedes, and with the Red Bulls in coming years. Right at this point of time, it's just not there. I mean, there will obviously be races where Vettel will overperform with that car. It's a good car, but it's still not at the level. It's I would say lower half of the mid table right now at this point. What we see. Talking about Lance Stroll, the other driver there. Again, good driver, fast. He has got pace, but I think he makes way too many mistakes. If they are to get anything out of this season, Lance Stroll has to support Sebastian Vettel. Vettel will get some points. I'm absolutely sure about it. He may even score certain podiums if things go all right. But right at this moment, I'm just happy to see Hülkenberg back racing again in F1.
Yeah, absolutely. Means he is coming to a setup where he was not even supposed to drive this race, and coming after almost a year and being able to match his teammate. And I'm hoping that he'll be able to perform better in the race, because he'll get another 2 days in the car to get accustomed to it more. So yeah, that is something which I'm expecting out of Nico Hülkenberg, at least from the Bahrain race. But talking about the overall season point of view, yes, we also discussed offline about this as well. So Aston Martin took over from Racing Point. One thing which I was not very happy about, or Racing Point and even before that, when they were Force India, they were a team where they were able to score more points and even able to challenge more stronger team in the season. But that was something
they used to continuously overperform at times.
Yeah, means like I'll not say overperform, because at the end they also had talented drivers as well. It's not entirely up to the machine only, but that was something which I felt was missing in their last season. Yes, Vettel secured 2 podiums, out of which he was robbed out of one of the podiums for all the regulations point of view. Let's not go there, but I expected a bit more from Aston Martin, and that is something which I hope that we should be able to see at least in this current season. But based on whatever we have seen till now, I'm not sure about that happening, because the machine which they have, or the engine, or maybe it's just a setup, and they will be able to improve their car going forward in the season. But as of now, I'm not sure if they will be able to compete with the mid-table other teams like Alpine or AlphaTauri. I'm not sure if they will be able to compete with them.
Uh,
Talking
just
about-
before
yeah.
just before we move on to the next team, I just have one thing to say. Not a betting man, but I feel that Hulkenberg will be scoring points tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I guess, Sunday.
Sure,
Yeah, that's my first bet.
We'll discuss about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
One thing about Lance Stroll, but of all the other drivers who are bringing in money, and they are occupying a place because of the sponsorship which they are bringing, whether we talk about Mazepin in the last season or Nicholas Latifi, I feel Lance Stroll is one of the best drivers of all of those drivers. And even to an extent that even if he is not being sponsored from his father, who is owning the Aston Martin, I would still have him among the top 20 racers in the F1
Yeah, he will.
as of now. So from that
I
point of
agree.
view, I believe he will improve only, but it's just that he needs to have the performance has to be consistent, which was lacking in the last season. Yes, Azerbaijan was one of the instances where he was not very lucky, where he was also in a very strong position to score points, but he has to be a bit more consistent. That is something which I would expect out of him going into this season. So yeah, that's my take. Okay, so let's move on to our next team. We expected a lot out of McLaren last season. They were consistently fighting with Ferrari for the third spot, and going into this season, before the preseason testing, a lot was talked about them. Even in the preseason testing, they had a car which had speed, which has speed, and even for that matter, now also they have a very fast car. It's just that they have issues with their brakes. Now, I'm not sure, I do not have a lot of experience or understanding of all the technical aspects of the car, but that is something which is hampering them, in the corners and in the other aspects, which is overall slowing down their lap timings. So what do you make of the overall performance of McLaren, and what do you see happening with them going ahead in this current season?
So in the practice session, I guess the FP2, they finished 11th and 18th. Ricardo is coming back from illness, and I'm not sure whether he is completely fit to race. Maybe he is, but the timings were not there. I mean, the fact that a team like Haas is who were the wooden spoon holder last time around, outperformed your drivers, both of your drivers, in fact, in some sense means that there's something not right with McLaren. Last year, Lando actually started pretty well in the first half. He was just brilliant. Ricardo struggled with the car, but as I say, it's difficult to move to a new team. McLaren is a difficult car to control if you don't know the ins and out of it. So it was obvious that it was not going his way, but he did come back, did secure a win also. So yeah, looking at last season, it felt like this time around they would again be challenging for the third position, fourth position, but it does not look quite good as of now. Right now, I don't think that they're in the best of position. They can obviously improve. They are one of those teams who have got enough technical expertise. They have got a legacy and everything, and they can make improvements faster than a lot of other teams. So I hope that they know what's going wrong right now and can improve. Otherwise, they have got two drivers who can consistently score points and also podium finishes. So I'm hoping good things from them, but I don't think they would be doing well in the first few races. So yeah.
Yeah, and one of the important aspect here is, now last year a lot of the teams were focusing on this year car. Now the next regulation is not scheduled to come before 26. So I believe all the teams will focus on improving their car for this current year. And I do not feel McLaren has a very bad car. They are very good in pace. It's just that I believe there are few issues which they need to fix. and going forward they'll be able to perform better. But I'm expecting after the summer break they will have a much better season as comparison to the races which are scheduled before the summer break. But talking about fighting for the third spot, I do not feel McLaren as of this moment is in a position to challenge maybe likes of Mercedes or Ferrari or Red Bull, because to be honest, based on the preseason testing, we are not sure who will be who will be the first or second or third, because Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, all of them looks like they either of them can be first, second, or third. Considering the current scenario, if Mercedes are facing issues, they are probably looking towards the third spot. But yeah, I don't think so. McLaren, at best chance they will have is probably fighting for the fourth place, considering the current scenario, unless they are able to drastically transform their car and sort out their issues as early in the season as possible, as you talked about in terms of the capabilities which they have.
Yeah, it looks difficult that they would be challenging the top three. So this time it does look like there is a clear top three, and then there are the rest.
Okay, let's talk about AlphaTauri. Pierre Gasly had a very good first session today. In fact, he had a very above average season when we talk about the last year when he was performing. He had a teammate who on his first season, Yuki Tsunoda, performed well in patches, but he was not consistent last year. So going ahead this year, I feel they have a very good car. Although AlphaTauri and Red Bull both are owned by the same team, they do not have a lot of similarities, but the underlying theme, the powertrain which is supplied from the Honda, I believe they are excelling and they have a very good car. So I would be expecting a much more from Yuki Tsunoda this year, considering this will be his second year. So a lot of the mistakes which he was doing last year, he would have gained experience. And the consistent, if Yuki Tsunoda is able to provide that consistency and can be among the points on a regular basis, I believe AlphaTauri has a very good chance, maybe competing for fourth or fifth position this year. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I think both their drivers will be performing well this time around. A lot of what Tsunoda made, a lot of mistakes which he made were rookie mistakes last season. And along with that, I mean, Pierre Gasly would be looking at that seat of Sergio Perez for next season. So I think that there is extra motivation for him to do well. Here also in the first practice, he performed well. Has been going fairly well over the past few practice sessions in Bahrain and in Barcelona as well. Not too bad. Obviously, there are rooms for improvement still. And in the second practice, we saw both of them finish 13th, 14th, or 14th and 15th. I don't exactly have a recall, but it was somewhere in that. So lower to mid table. Last time Gasly won a race was in 2020. Last year he drove well. He was close on a couple of occasions. He was pretty consistent, which was something that was missing in his previous two seasons. He has gained a lot of experience over the last couple of years. He's still young. He's like 24, 25 at this point of time, and he has got a lot of races under his belt. I think it's time that Gasly moves to a stronger team as well, and I think this season will be kind of his audition for the top teams to look at Gasly as a real contender for a seat in their team. So I am hoping that both Tsunoda and Gasly would be scoring a lot of points this season.
So one thing is here is it's a function of also how Checo Perez is able to perform this season. Now, if assuming Perez is performing well this season, I would highly assume that he will be getting another extension for the next year. Assuming he is able to help Verstappen either win a drivers' championship or help Red Bull wins a constructor championship. In that scenario, even Yuki Tsunoda will have an option or a chance to prove that once if Perez contract is extended, because we already know that Verstappen will be there in Red Bull for quite some time now. His last contract has also been extended. Now, in a scenario where Pierre Gasly is not moved to Red Bull in the next year, as you rightly pointed out, he might look for options to move into stronger teams. In that scenario, maybe Yuki Tsunoda might be targeting for another seat for which will be vacated by Perez once he either retires or he moves out of Red Bull in maybe 2 or 3 seasons time. So that will be also a very good opportunity for Yuki Tsunoda, I feel.
Yeah, I think this is an important season for both Tsunoda and Gasly to show not just Red Bull, not just their senior team what they can do, but also other constructors. It's a bit far-fetched, but there are talks that Lewis Hamilton may not go on racing for much longer. He may be there for maybe this season, maybe next, but it possibly looks like by 2024 he would not be there. That's another seat that may be vacated. So I know this is a far stretch, but if Gasly does not get a chance with Red Bull next season, I think there is a possibility that that Mercedes may also be looking at him. Saying that I know this may sound atrocious to a lot of people, but Gasly is someone who is here to stay in F1 for a long time. He's fast. He has got race experience, and at this age, at the age of 24, 25, the number of races that he has already been part of, this experience would count a lot. So I am hoping that both of them, rise to the occasion and perform as well as they can.
So a couple of things then, testing points which you made. I am not expecting, Hamilton to retire before his current contracts get over. We heard a lot about all those, I would say, garbage before the pre-season. It's just a PR stunt, I would say, the Mercedes was trying to pull, or maybe they were trying to strong arm FIA to remove Michael Messi or make some changes which were more conducive to them going into the new season. So I'll not read too much.
That's kind of the first controversial statement we have said in this episode. As I would say, Mercedes strong arming FIA to remove Michael Messi.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, again, as I said, that may be one of the reasons why, although pre-season, all the news we were getting that Hamilton might not come even this season, but I don't think so. He will either leave Mercedes or retire before his 2-year contract gets over. Yes, in 24, that's a scenario which you talked about, and I agree, it might be a possibility there. But the second point which you made in terms of Pierre Gasly being targeted by Mercedes, I'm not sure whether Russell and Gasly would be an ideal teammate when you have both the drivers who are probably in similar in capacity and in skill set and of the same age bracket. It will be again a 2015 scenario for Mercedes. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I kind of get what you are saying, but the problem is that the problem right now is that there are way too many young drivers, and you will have a mix of both the drivers of the same age group in teams. I mean, look at Sainz and Leclerc. Both are almost similar. I know Charles is a couple of years younger than Sainz. That's there. So going forward, I think this is going to happen. Teams will be having drivers of same age, and we may. I guess it's better also, like to have two competitive drivers. It makes the race more interesting for fans as well, because at the end that both the drivers are driving the same car, so they are competing against each other, and which driver is better. And right, it's a bit difficult to strong arm one driver to give up position, like what happened last year and what has been happening for a long time in Mercedes, and it happened with Ferrari as well when Schumacher and Barrichello were there. So I'm not saying that other teams don't do that. Everyone does that. But I do get your point that Russell and Gasly, it will be difficult to, if Toto Wolff is there, for Toto Wolff to say to Gasly to give his position back to Russell. And we know Russell is his favorite kid. So yeah, I see a lot of fireworks.
Because one thing which we are forgetting here is we are talking about two drivers who are there currently in AlphaTauri, but we also have Alex Albon, who has been loaned to Williams for one season. In a event or in a scenario where either of one of the drivers from AlphaTauri are moving out of the Red Bull team, would you see Alex Albon directly fitting back into AlphaTauri, or to take the place of Perez directly? What's your opinion there? I know we are talking a lot of hypothetical in a preseason for next season, but
I think I feel Gasly is a better driver than Albon, and then Tsunoda. Also, he's a better driver than Tsunoda. But Tsunoda is younger. I guess we'll see how he performs in a couple of years. But the interesting thing is that whom would Max Verstappen want as his second driver? Because Verstappen is there till 2028. He is the top dog at Red Bull. They are looking. They will be trying to win championships on his back. So whether Verstappen would want a Gasly or an Albon, I don't know. I don't have a guess, but I think.
Let me try to answer that question for you. If I'm Verstappen, probably I would be looking for a driver who will be. If he is able to compete me, it's absolutely fine, because I know right now I'm at my prime. I need someone who will be there at second or third position when it's a racing scenario, so that the other competitors they do not have that kind of chance. So what probably Hamilton and Bottas were doing from 2017 to 2020, I would probably like to have that kind of scenario. Whether it may be Gasly or Albon, I do not care. I would like that kind of teammate.
In that scenario, I think it may. I mean, I'm doing a lot of disservice to Alex Albon, but I think if that is the case, then maybe Red Bull would go for Albon. But there are way too many
absolutely
puzzle pieces here to kind of say what is going to happen. I mean, there are a lot of young drivers coming up, the like of Oscar Piastri and Theo Boucher. So you never know what is going to happen in a couple of years. But for now, I think, you are right. If Checo performs well, then he will be staying. But let's move from AlphaTauri to what's next, Haas.
Yes, let's talk about. I am very hopeful of Haas this year. They brought in Kevin Magnussen. They have Schumacher. Now, the best part is they are performing in a scenario, although it's just a practice session, but Schumacher outlapped Lewis Hamilton in terms of the timing. In the second practice session in Bahrain today. So that is a very promising scenario for Haas, I would say. I know they had a very heartbreaking Australian Grand Prix a couple of seasons back, where both of the Haas were, running in the points, and they break down because of the poor pit stop which they had, where the wheels were not tight. But again, that was one of the unlucky scenario. But this season, I feel Haas has a much better car. And Kevin Magnussen, I would say, is a boon for them based on whatever scenario happened. Yes, we'll talk about that thing later. But he's a very good influence on, I'll not say influence, but a very good teammate for Schumacher, I would say, considering whatever season, the bad season which they had last year. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, getting Magnussen in, we will be talking about the Mazepin incident a bit later, I would say, but getting someone who has been who was there, who knows the ins and out of the team. He was there when they had probably their best season in 2018, when they were fourth or fourth, I guess, in Constructor Championship. So it's a good thing for Haas. Their timings were good, not just in both these practice sessions, but even in the previous practice sessions. Schumacher clocked pretty well. He had 132 odd in one of those sessions. So he's driving well. I like him a lot. I mean, he's kind of, I've grown up watching Michael Schumacher, and to see his son racing, there is a soft corner there. I mean, I'll be supporting Mick Schumacher throughout. Kevin Magnussen is known to be a good driver. There are allegations that sometimes he drives a bit rough, but at the end of the day, you need to do whatever you need to do to get points. And that is something that Magnussen can do. better than a lot of the drivers on the grid. A lot of drivers with better pace than him, with better cars than him. But yet Magnussen can churn out those points, those couple of points, 3 points, and that makes a huge difference to the drivers, to the constructor championship when you are there. The difference between being 10th and being 7th is tens of millions of dollars for the team. And also the other point about Haas is that they're running a Ferrari engine. Ferrari looks stronger this time around. So yeah, I'm hoping they will be scoring. They will be scoring some points at least. If not in double digit, then they will be scoring some points. I'm sure about it. My hope is that Mick gets a podium this time around. I know this is a long shot, but yeah, you can hope.
Yeah. So another important point here is, see, this will be the second season for Schumacher. Now, Haas is a traditional, second like a testing ground for Ferrari, if we will say.
It's a feeder. It's a feeder. Club,
so
team.
We already have Leclerc. We already have Sainz. Sainz is also only 27 right now. Now, for Schumacher to be in the sheen for Ferrari in the future, it is important for him to perform well here, considering this will be his second season. And now, when he has a better car, the expectations will be higher from him, I would say. So that is something which, yes, it is a separate thing to clock good timings in a practice sessions or pre-season testing. But come Sunday, the racing scenario will be entirely different. You talked about Magnussen, who is a very attacking racer, or who tries to score more points. But does Schumacher also has the same thing when he is racing, probably say Alonso or a Vettel, in a scenario where all these people or drivers are expected to be in the mid grade of the championship? So that is something which will be interesting to see, because I would hate it like when Schumacher also ends up like what Russell did for Williams, where he was only able to score on the Saturdays and he was able to get better position, but not able to convert those on the Sundays. So that is something which I would expect more to happen and from the Haas this season, considering they have a better car. So yeah, let's talk about one of the hottest teams, I would say from my end, is Alfa Romeo. We spoke a lot about Bottas offline earlier, how he has helped Hamilton to win 7 championships, if not let's say 5 championships, if not 7.
Yeah.
But what interesting thing we have with Alfa Romeo here is they have both the new drivers. You have someone racer who is coming from a team who won constructor champions for n number of years, 7-8 years in the last decade. So he has an experience to win the races. They have a better car. He has outperformed Hamilton in the FP2. The best scenario which I'm hoping for is he's able to outperform Hamilton even in the qualifying, and when come Sunday for the races, they are actually competing for the same spot. That would be the ideal scenario, I would say, and probably a fitting end to what Bottas has been, as a racer in F1, where he has always been considered as a helper driver to just help Lewis win the title. Again, I know I'll be a lot of people will criticize me, a lot of Hamilton fans. I am not a Hamilton fan. I'm not saying that he's not a good driver. He's a very good driver. Considering the current lot of drivers what we have, he's a very good driver, among the top 5, I would say, if not the best driver. But he's not the best of all time. And the records suggest because he had a teammate like Bottas. Consider a scenario where he would have a teammate like a Verstappen or a teammate like Leclerc or Russell, for that matter, starting from 2017. I'm not sure if Hamilton would have been able to score. So my point is, Alfa Romeo has a very good driver who has the experience of winning Drivers' Championship and Constructor Championship. Saying that, yes, Bottas has not won a Driver Championship, but I would say Hamilton's Drivers' Championship is as equivalent to what Bottas has done. What's your opinion?
Before moving to Bottas, I would say that Zhau had a good FP2. Coming 15th, this is kind of your first race. We are having the first Chinese F1 driver, uh, perhaps ever. So yeah, he looks good. It looks like he's here to stay in F1 because I guess from next year onwards we'll also be getting the Chinese Grand Prix, and there is no way that we'll be having a Formula One in China without a Chinese driver. So I think so he's here for 2 years. This is his rookie year. This is his first year. I'm hoping he does well. Alfa Romeo is a fairly decent team. Coming to Bottas, this is for the first time, I guess, he'll be driving in a Ferrari powered car. So, considering that and that fact, and that he was fourth in P2, yeah, it looks like he's in a good space because last year I am 100% sure that there was something. His brain was scrambled. He was not in good mood. Even then, he actually performed pretty well. There were races where uh, Hamilton would not have gained as many points as they did without Bottas. I know Bottas has been doing that for the last like 5 years for Hamilton now. Since Rosberg left in 2016, Bottas has been a great help for Hamilton. But last year it looked like, yeah, it from the first race itself, it looked like that was the end. There was no way that Bottas was going to stay there. And seeing him perform well in Alfa Romeo, it's a good car. Bottas is extremely experienced. I'm sure he's going to get points. Last year, Alfa Romeo had Raikkonen, a pretty experienced driver, and he got points for them. Bottas is 8 years younger to him. He's on a long-term contract. So
2 year contract.
yeah, he's on a long-term contract. So I think yes, I'm almost sure that we are going to see good race from Bottas. Not exactly podiums week in and week out like he did in Mercedes. Obviously, it's not the same car, but he would enjoy the challenge of being the lead driver in a team, and I think he will also enjoy guiding a younger driver. I mean, that kind of team environment. I think he'll like it.
Absolutely. And one another important thing which you also mentioned, like, yes, it is very difficult to expect podiums on a consistent basis, but since I'm expecting that, Alfa Romeo to be in the mix of things, at least for the middle layer of the constructor championship, and also for that matter, in the races where I'm expecting Bottas to score consistently on the points basis, if not the podiums. So, saying that, let's move on to the next team, that is Alpine. Last year was a bit of challenge for them. Ricardo having moved to McLaren the season in the last season, so they had to rebuild the team. They brought in the Alonso back, but still they had a fairly good season last season, and I'm expecting much better season from them this year because Esteban Ocon has also gained a lot of experience. He's a much better driver now considering the previous season. And Alonso, to be honest, he's one of my favorite drivers of all time, not just in the current grid. So I'm expecting Alpine to perform much better than last season. So I would not be surprised after the end of the season if they are fourth in the Constructor Championship. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Talking about the practice session, I think Alpine was one of those teams that was suffering the porpoising problem.
Yeah.
Ocon complained a bit about that as well. But before that, I would like to say that I am just liking the color of their car again. It's the BWT pink. It's the color that Racing Point had. It's the color that Force India had, and something that Esteban Ocon is kind of quite familiar with. So yeah, it looks great on the grid. That's the first thing. Coming to the drivers, I think they have two pretty good drivers. People may say that Alonso is kind of finished. There's nothing much left in him, but I think he came to Renault with the intention of winning races, and I think that given the right condition, I don't know whether the car is ready for that. I don't think it is ready for that right now. But in the course of this season, I'm hoping that they make improvements. Renault are an original equipment manufacturer. They manufacture their own engine. Uh, it's a good team with a good record, and I'm hoping that they resolve this problem that they are facing right now. And as far as the drivers are concerned, Ocon, his confidence must have been off the roof after that Hungaroring win last season, and he's a much improved driver from what we saw a few seasons back. I This is one team that will consistently be scoring points, and maybe this season I see them consistently getting into the podium as well. We talked about McLaren a few minutes back, and I think this time actually I see Alpine being that team, which McLaren was last season. With Lando consistently getting podiums and doing well, and Ricardo winning a race as well. And this time I see Alpine being that team. I hope that they resolve this porpoising problem as early as possible, but that's something that a lot of teams have struggled with. And I think in a couple of races, maybe this gets resolved. But about my predictions for them this season, I see at least one of those drivers winning a race. I'm not sure which one. I don't know which circuit, but I see one of them winning a race. I would love Alonso to win one. I mean, he has been one of the best drivers in Formula 1 for almost 2 decades now. From the season he started till now, he has been one of the best drivers. He's one of the most liked drivers also in the circuit. And yeah, either of Ocon or Alonso, I think they're not going anywhere else. I don't think Ocon is leaving Alpine. Alpine themselves have ambitions of challenging for championship,
and they have invested heavily on him as well.
And they have invested heavily on him. So I don't see. So these are two drivers who are pretty comfortable with the team environment. They are pretty comfortable in their cars. The team likes them. It's a good team, and I think this time around Renault would do well. Yeah, they will.
One of the highlights for me from the last season was the battle between Alonso and Russell, where it took quite some time for Alonso to get past Russell. So that was one of the highlights for me from the last season. Yes, but saying that, it would be too early for us to discard McLaren completely. I would still expect them to come back stronger. But saying that, probably fourth spot is something which I would feel McLaren and Alpine, and probably to an extent either Haas and Alfa Romeo, if they are able to keep up that pace, to compete for the fourth spot in the Constructor Championship. But yes, they are one of the team who have both of them a very good driver. And yes, I would expect them to score at least in the midfield of the points consistently across the races.
Yeah, just one thing. Yeah, as I said, I'm seeing Alpine do what McLaren did last season. I think, yes, I would also agree that we will be seeing a stronger McLaren, if not after the first couple of races, then at least after the summer break.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that position, I think for the fourth position, the battle is going to be between Alpine and McLaren. Yeah,
sure.
That's just my point. Yeah.
Cool. So let's move on to our top 3 teams. A lot of the media experts and people who are talking about F1, they are ranking Mercedes at 3rd position as of now. Yes, a lot of Mercedes fans will not concur to the thought which we are presenting, but based on what we have seen until now, that is the place where I feel Mercedes would end up if they are not able to improve their car going forward. But we all know that is not going to happen. So yes, we expect them to fight better going ahead. They are also one of the teams who have the proposing problem a lot, and especially Hamilton is facing a lot in the straights where he's going on, especially during the first turn when we are able to see in the FP1 and FP2 both. So the other challenge which they have is Russell. I would not say a good move for Mercedes. I'll not say that, but it will be a challenge when Russell is able to consistently perform better than Hamilton. Then what would be a race dynamics or a team orders would be from the Mercedes team, assuming they are able to race in the first and second position. Right now they are not there. Right now they are probably in the midfield somewhere. When Russell I probably was fourth and Hamilton was ninth in the FP2. But assuming they're able to climb up the charts, and in the race scenario they are, if running 1, 2, or maybe 3 position, will there be another team orders where Hamilton will be allowed to pass to Russell? That will be a very tricky scenario, I would say, because Bottas was one of the driver who unwillingly or willingly, Hamilton had a aid that he will win. If Mercedes is first, 99 of the 100% of the times, it will be Hamilton who will be the first and Bottas will be the second. I'm not sure that will happen with Russell. Yes, he's a younger driver, but going forward, Mercedes also know that Hamilton will not be there for long. So they will have to develop Russell. So what's your thought regarding that?
Yeah, I think I would start with one of the incidents that happened last time. I guess it was in the Dutch Grand Prix or one of the European Grand Prix. I think it was in the Dutch Grand Prix. Hamilton was behind Verstappen. Both the Mercedes were behind him. And there was a time when Bottas was about to clock the fastest lap. And there were team orders that he gave up. He should slow down. He slowed down, but still at that point of time he was the fastest. And I guess Hamilton took the fastest lap in the last lap, in the final lap, even though Max won it and he got 1 point extra. Forget about Russell allowing Hamilton to go past him if it's a competitive race. I think Russell won't even slow down from getting the fastest lap points also. So I think this is going to be a pretty good fight between teammates. With fight, I mean competition. It's going to be great. Russell is pretty young. I think I'm almost sure that he's a fan of Hamilton. That goes without saying. But I don't think he is someone who would give an inch. This guy has been a winner since his karting days, just like Hamilton was. He's a fighter. He's a very good racer, and it will be very difficult for Toto or for anyone in that Mercedes dugout to say that Russell should give up his position for Hamilton.
But one thing is important is like considering whatever we have seen till now, Russell is still not settled with the new car. There are still issues which are creeping up, which I hope Mercedes is able to resolve at the earliest, so that we have 6 to 8 racers who are actually competing for podium. That would be a very good scenario for the F1 racing.
So yeah, obviously I agree, and I think Russell has the potential in him to consistently win races as well. It's just that how comfortable he is in the new scenario. He has been a Mercedes racer for quite a long time, so he knows the team, he knows the car pretty well. But again, anyways, this is going to be his first full season with Mercedes, and yeah, it won't be easy to have Lewis Hamilton beside you, who is obviously the top dog in the team. But I must say that Russell was not facing the same level of porpoising problem which Hamilton was. I mean, there was this in the practice session, there was a view from Hamilton's the camera from inside the cockpit, and the way the car was jumping up and down, it looked in pretty bad shape. So I am not sure that the car, I don't think that Mercedes are bluffing when they are saying that the car is not ready. The car is not ready, and I don't think that for the next 2 races they would be challenging. I would be pretty surprised if they actually challenge Ferrari and Red Bull, especially Verstappen and Leclerc for the top position. But again, it's like it's always said that Hamilton shows his true pace in Q2 and then on Sundays. So I guess we may have to wait for what happens in the qualifying and see what's the true thing with Mercedes. But on a long term, like if we are doing a season preview of Mercedes, whatever problem they are facing, they will obviously they will rectify it. They will come back with a stronger car. Even then, I see them as third. It's a bold prediction considering the fact that they are now 8-time consecutive constructor champions. And from first to third, it would be a big drop. But I think this time around, they may be third in the constructor championship. A lot will depend on not just how Mercedes perform, but also how Checo performs. So unless you'd like to add something more on the Mercedes issue.
Yeah. One thing which I
Sure, sure.
so the pre-season testing from Barcelona to Bahrain, I think Mercedes was one of the car which changed drastically. They reduced their side pods by significant proportion. So I'm not sure
Yes,
whether
they did.
that's contributing to the problem, whether that was a solution to the proposing which they were facing in Barcelona, whether that was done to reduce them, minimize the impact of proposing, or whether that has contributed to another set of challenges. I'm not sure whether that's the issue. But whatever that is, Mercedes needs to sort it at the earliest. So saying that, let's just jump to your point, in terms of it's not just a function of how Mercedes will perform, but also how Perez is performing. Because what we noticed from last season is Verstappen is there. He's there in 1 or 2. At least for the entire season, last season, he was there, either 1 or 2, unless there were incidents. But it also depends a lot in terms of how much he's getting help from Perez. Because if you have, considering the current scenario, right? If you have Leclerc and Sainz as 2 or 3, and Verstappen is running as the race leader in the on Sundays, it will be very difficult for Verstappen to hold down to number 1 spot for all the races, unless you have Perez either at 3 or 4. Because if you have Perez at 7 or 8, and you have 2 Ferraris behind you, you will be always outsmarted by the team based on either they will undercut you or they will overcut you, because you have essentially are fighting with 2 drivers. So yes, that is a very important aspect, because that will also decide the future of Perez with Red Bull. He's also not very old. He's also in his early 30s, and he had a pretty decent season last year. He spoke about that first 5 races he will not be there. He'll need some time. But beyond that, yes, there were some races where he was not very lucky, but he was there and thereabout, but not to an extent where you need to support the world champion, not to as opposed to what Bottas was probably doing for Hamilton prior to 2021. So he also knows that he is not there in the team to win the driver championship. He's there to support Verstappen to win the driver championship and help Red Bull win the constructor championship. How early he's able to do that and how well he's able to support that will actually define whether Red Bull is able to compete for the constructor championship and his future in the Red Bull.
So Checo is a legend. That's what Verstappen said in Abu Dhabi, and yeah, he may not have helped Max win the title like Bottas did with Hamilton, but he was there when he was required in the final races. In the final race, he was there. I don't think that Verstappen would have closed the gap without Checo there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Sergio Perez. I think from his the fact that he was a Force India driver, the fact that Force India is somehow close to our hearts. May not be. I started watching Formula 1 and was a Ferrari fan and a Schumacher fan, but when Force India came to the grid, there was always a soft spot for them. And whether it's Nico, whether it's Perez, I think there is always going to be a soft spot for them. In at least for me, I agree that it's going to be difficult for Max to. Or let's say for Red Bull to win the championship without Checo performing. I know, and it will also be difficult for Max to win races without Checo helping him out, because a lot of the time we saw it with Hamilton and Bottas, we saw it with Schumacher and Barrichello. You need that second driver to stave off any challenge from the other cars, and seeing that Mercedes are going to improve. Seeing that Ferrari have done a brilliant job this time around, it looks like the most consistent car, if not the best car around. Uh, if there is a scenario where Leclerc is chasing down Verstappen and Checo is in the second place and he's not able to stop Leclerc Sainz for long, then it will be difficult for even Max to kind of win the championship that easily. Saying that last year he finished with 18 podiums and he was the champion. So
So,
Verstappen, I think it's everyone is chasing Verstappen this time around, and he is at least looking at what Mercedes has to offer. I think he's far ahead of the pack. The only person I think closer to him is Charles Leclerc with this Ferrari. But I still think that this may be Verstappen's year. It all depends actually.
see, my
Yeah.
only concern here is when we are talking about, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. Now, if you have, say, Verstappen running at one, or you have a driver from Ferrari at second, say Leclerc, and in case you have, a Russell or a Hamilton at third, then it would not be that important for Perez to be at fourth or fifth. But when you have, say, Russell and Hamilton at second and third, or Leclerc or Sainz at second and third, then it is very important for Perez to be, in the fighting distance or in the attacking distance to at least one of their drivers, because then the other opposition team will not be able to, go for a split strategy in terms of the tire management. You will have Perez to, counteract those challenges. So even if he's at second and he's not able to hold on to Leclerc, it's absolutely fine, because then essentially you will have two drivers in the top three or two drivers in the top four, which is more important, I feel, as comparison to, Checo being at eighth or ninth. That will be detrimental for the Red Bull cause.
Yeah, I don't think that that you can win a constructor championship by one of your driver being first and the other one being
Absolutely.
sixth. That's not going to happen. So Checo has to score points consistently, has to be in the podium consistently, and it's going to be extremely important if Max is to defend his championship. Checo has to be on the top of his game. I think that's there. Saying that, what are your views on the car that Red Bull has come out with? I mean, is it the best one among the top teams, or do you still think that do you think that Ferrari is a better bet than Red Bull?
See, I'm not sure too much about in terms of the overall performance of the car, because we are seeing Red Bull at number one because Verstappen is also there. Then we are seeing two Ferraris back to back. Leclerc is also there, Sainz is also there. So just considering, whatever I'm able to see from the outside, and me being a fan of F1, I feel Ferrari is a better placed, at least in terms of the performance of the car. The delta between Red Bull and Ferrari is not significant. That is something which I will say. It's just that Sainz has, adapted the Ferrari car much better and faster as comparison to Perez has done with the Red Bull. Whether it's a function of, Red Bull being a more complicated mechanics in terms of adapting to the car when he shifted from Racing Point, or Ferrari is easier to adapt to, I'm not sure about that. But considering all the scenario and whatever I'm able to see right now, the delta may not be significant, but yes, Ferrari at this moment looks like a better car. But since the performance of Red Bull was already much better to Ferrari last year, so that's why I don't think so they are far behind, or even that they will not be hampered by the performance of the car, I would say, if it comes down to the championship race.
I think we smoothly segued into Ferrari from Red Bull there. I think Carlos Sainz, he adapted pretty well actually. So he outperformed his more favored teammate. I'd say. I mean, we all know that Charles Leclerc is the top dog in Ferrari. They've been grooming him. There is a potential champion in there. They see him as a potential champion. They started working on this car pretty early from last season, and it looks like they have done a good job. I think in the initial I think last week during the testing, there were talks that Ferrari are pretty good, but then there were also talks that maybe Mercedes are not performing to their optimal best. They are not revealing all their cards, but it looks like no, they don't have that many cards right now. I mean, they need to borrow some cards to play this round at least. So yeah, Ferrari looks. They had a horrible 2020. They had an average 2021. This time it does look like they could be challenging for the title, not just the constructor championship, but Leclerc looks like someone who could challenge Verstappen. Maybe after 14 years, the last was Felipe Massa. So after Massa, this is, I think, for the first time that Ferrari do stand a very strong chance of being close to the championship, driver championship, I would say. I don't, I still think that Max is overwhelming favorite, but in Leclerc, he has a good opponent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still a bit too early, but based on whatever we have seen, all the evidence which we have seen, at least in the preseason and the practice session for Bahrain, it's fair to say that Ferrari cars are among the favorites, at least for the constructor championship. Driver championship will take a lot from Leclerc, because it's one thing to win a championship, and then the second thing to be there. So Verstappen is one of those drivers which looks like that he's there, and he is one of the more aggressive drivers. I'm not sure whether that is something which we will be able to see from Leclerc once he is, in the fighting position where he is chasing down Verstappen, or when Verstappen is chasing down him and Verstappen is in the second and he's in the first. I'm not sure whether those kind of scenarios and pressure, whether Leclerc will be able to take that up or not. Saying that, in the last few seasons, we had some reliability issues from Ferrari cars, although they started working on this season's cars quite early. But that is one factor which we cannot disregard, that Ferrari had some reliability issues, at least in the last couple of seasons. So how well their power unit or their engine or their gearbox, all those components are able to hold for a consistent period of time, that is also something which I believe we will be able to see going forward. But saying that, based on the current performance, yes, I would rate Ferrari to be the topmost team, at least in terms of winning the constructor championship.
I think that's a good shout out, because I think the other two teams which are using the Ferrari unit are also doing pretty well, performed fairly well this time around in Alfa Romeo and Haas. I think Charles was a bit unlucky last time around. I don't think that the car supported him. We saw what happened in Monaco. Silverstone, he should have won. That was an easy race for him to win. I think the difference in the cars was pretty evident at that point of time. Yeah.
See, the difference in car was evident, I understand, but my problem with Ferrari and McLaren last season was they were not trying to compete for the top position. You mentioned Silverstone, but there are also other instances in the across the season where they were only chasing for the third position, even when they were in a stronger position. Say, for example, even in Russia, I think it was in the Russian Grand Prix where Norris was leading, and
he was leading and he slid out.
Yeah, so those kind of strategic things, they both Ferrari and McLaren, they were not able to capitalize, or they were happy with the third position. So that was something which I had complained from Ferrari and McLaren both, that they were not trying to even compete for the first or the second spot, even being in a very strong position in any particular race. So that was one thing which I had.
Just on the Lando Norris issue, I think Sochi was his mistake. He was being called into the pit, and he didn't pit there. So I mean, the driver wanted to win, but again, that it was his mistake.
Absolutely.
But I do agree with your point. I didn't think that they were going for the top two position. Although Lando, at least in the first half of the season, was pretty consistent. He was there or thereabout always. Ferrari, both Sainz and Leclerc were also doing pretty well, but they were nowhere close to the top two teams. So yeah.
So based on our discussions, so do you think it would be fair to assume that we are on the same page when we say Ferrari are favorites for the constructor championship based on the current situation and scenario, and Verstappen is favorite in terms of the driver championship?
Yeah, I think that would be correct. I think Ferrari does look like the best of the lot right at this moment, and you'll have to go with the defending champion. In any, I mean, any circumstances, unless the car actually is not that good, which is not the case here. I think you'll have to go with Max being the overwhelming favorite. But saying that, I'm hoping that Leclerc gives him a good fight. I am hoping to see another Ferrari champion after Raikkonen. So let's see.
And another thing which I feel would favor, I'll not say favor, but would be a better thing for Red Bull at this instance, or for that matter Ferrari as well, is the first two races, the Bahrain and the Jeddah circuit. Last year Mercedes were quite strong in both the circuits, and at least in the start of this season they are not a very strong team as of now, based on all the evidence which we have seen until now. I'm not sure whether tomorrow Lewis Hamilton may come and completely blast the qualifying scenario and may take up the pole, but based on whatever we have seen till now, they are not looking among the top teams, at least for the first two circuits, and they were strong in those two Grand Prix. So it is very good opportunity for both the teams, Ferrari and Red Bull, because most of the races before the summer break will be in the European circuit. That will actually provide them a good opportunity to increase the gap between them and Mercedes.
I do agree. I think both the problem with Ferrari and Red Bull is that both of them are pretty strong in Europe. Yeah. And if this would have been a three-way race, if this turns out to be a three-way race, then Mercedes would have been favorite across the Asian circuit. And with them not doing that well, and with the first two races being at Bahrain and at Jeddah, I think this actually virtually knocks out Mercedes kind of in the initial stages itself. I mean, this would have been nailed on, I guess, at least almost around 50 odd constructor championship point for them if the car would have been that good. But I don't see them scoring that much. As you said, I mean, maybe Lewis comes out tomorrow and then just has a brilliant time and just passes everyone through. But it looks difficult. Maybe a week back, it looked like Mercedes are playing hide and seek. They are not revealing too much. But from what we saw today, the problem is real. It's not, they are not hiding something. It's real.
But saying that, there are a lot of circuits which were not there as a part of the season last year. Talk about Miami, talk about Canada, Singapore, Japan for that matter, Australia. So, in some of the circuits, Mercedes have been traditionally stronger. While we reach to those circuits, if Mercedes are able to solve some of their challenges, I would still feel that they would be a very handful team to beat for both Ferraris and Red Bulls.
Yeah. Suzuka is also back, I guess, this time around. So that's going to be. But yeah, I mean, the thing with last season was that the last four races were in Middle East, right?
After Brazil,
after Brazil, and Hamilton won all those races apart from Abu Dhabi. So this time that is also not in their favor. So before Abu Dhabi, we have Interlagos, and before that it's Mexico, and also this may be a difficult season for Mercedes. But then when you are 8-time constructor champion, I think everyone is waiting for you to fall. It's kind of the Schadenfreude moment. And I think that's the right word to use for a German team, I guess.
Let's not go too deep there, because I'm sure we have made a lot of people angry talking about Mercedes this much.
I'm sure that the Mercedes fans would be hating us. Pretty sure about it.
I want to discuss about Nikita Mazepin. Yes, there are political scenario, when we have a situation of war between Russia and Ukraine. Based on the sanctions, it was quite logical for Haas to terminate the sponsorship from Urakali. But Mazepin was also coming because of the sponsorship which they were, Urakali. In fact, his father was providing from the company. How fair it is for the athletes who are actually not, I would not say F1 is only a team, but it is an individual and a team at a 50% scenario, because we have athletes who are participating in other individual sports from Russia. Let's talk about tennis there as well. How fair it is for Mazepin to terminate his contract and bring in a new driver?
I don't think it's fair. But saying that, you talked about tennis. Actually, I read a report only yesterday that Daniil Medvedev may not be allowed to play in the Wimbledon if he does not openly criticize Vladimir Putin. This is absolute bullshit. This is just not on. Mazepin situation, I think we'll get into there, but I don't think that this is just not helping anyone. I think this is bad for sports. This is bad for those players, and it's unfair on them. It's absolutely unfair on them. Talking about Mazepin, the FIA ruling was that he will not be allowed to race in the under the Russian flag, and
he complied with that. He complied with that,
and he agreed to that in the blink of an eye. There was no, he just said yes to that. And for Haas to do that, I understand the politics behind it, but it was an absolute shit show. I think whatever happens, I know that there are a lot of people who would be saying that, who are saying, and maybe they are right also in saying that he was one of those drivers who were just there because of his father's money. But it's not just that. Mazepin's record as a driver in the leagues below Formula 1 has been pretty good. He has been a good driver. He's an extremely talented driver. It's not just his father's money that's why he is here. I mean, as we talked about Lance Stroll, he also brings in the money of Lawrence Stroll and all, but regardless, he would have got an F1 seat. Whether he would have got it as easily as he did with Racing Point, I don't know, but Lance Stroll would have got it, and I believe the same for Nikita Mazepin as well. I think he is a good racer, and whether he's a good racer or not, it's just that Haas his contract was extended. He was there for this
and they
this
took
season.
The money of sponsorship from Urakali.
So
I have one question here. I know it's not from the sports perspective, but more from players perspective. We saw Mazepin talking about some of the drivers who called him and supported him in terms of what was happening. And when you spoke about Medvedev, he's a world number 1 player. Okay. And then you will not allow him to participate in one of the topmost tournaments of the year, Grand Slams. Do you think it's time for other players to come together and, I'll not say talk, but be there for their mates, that they will not participate unless this is not happening or this is happening?
I think that's a difficult proposition. It's simply not possible to coordinate something like that. I feel it's a bit difficult. Players will obviously have sympathy, as Mazepin said. I mean, Checo called him. Russell was there who called him. I think Charles also called him, and there were a few others. And it's difficult for a player. He's just 23, and it's not just the fact that he will not be driving this year, but once you lose a seat in F1, it's difficult to come back. There is a long line. There are a lot of drivers there, and last year was his kind of rookie season. He would have gained a lot of experience, and this time around it would have been very different for him. So it's not just this year. I think it puts his entire career in jeopardy. And I don't think I don't think it's fair on players. Uh, it's absolutely not fair on players. But at the same time, do I think that other players can come together and kind of put pressure? I I am not sure actually. That's a very difficult thing to say. Because first of all, when it's Formula One, I think
Easier
it's a
thing to do.
closed club. It's an easier thing to do. In tennis, I don't think that is ever going to be possible. But even then, it's still not that easy for players to come out
No,
and
why
say
I'm
we are
saying
not
that
going to.
because, see, you have a team because of their comments and complaints, you are able to strong arm the entire association into, sacking your director. So why not this? If you have, drivers supporting, because see, let's be honest. I know we are dwelling away from the topic. I just wanted to, talk about this thing for one more minute. If Haas was not funded or not a US or a UK team, do you feel the outcome would have been same with Mazepin?
I think it would have been the same. I think it unless it would have been a Russian team. I think in that case they would have been banned from from entirely racing. I think it would have been it would have been same whether even if it would not have been an American driving one American driving team, it would have been the same. It's just sad that this has happened. And Haas last year, Uralkali supported them a lot. I know that Haas had to give up a seat to Mazepin, which they may not have given him in normal circumstances, but it helped the team. They are one of the independent teams out there. They are not a Mercedes or a Ferrari.
Yeah.
They need money. They need sponsorship money, and they got it in Uralkali. And I can understand the sponsorship deal not going through for whatever is happening between Russia and Ukraine and the whole of Europe being involved. But I just don't think that it was fair to kind of drop Nikita Mazepin out, because I don't think this sets a good precedent. The precedent is what I'm worried about. As going forward, we would there may be very different scenarios, and this if this kind of keeps happening, it's not good for sports.
Pun intended, but I don't think so. We are living in a place where precedence matters anymore.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, same here. But I was about to say that as cricket fans, we have seen what happens.
Yeah.
And how this can go, how long this can go, and all these things can happen. So, yeah, I was not happy with what happened with Mazepin. You can criticize him as a driver. You can say that there are other drivers who are better than him. I think there may be there may be younger drivers who may be better than him. There is no doubt in that. Maybe Magnussen will do much better for Haas than Mazepin would have. But I just it leaves a sour taste when these kind of things happen.
Sure. Thanks for your time, Somit. Thanks, everyone. That's it from our end on the preseason for F1 2022. We'll come back to you with a lot of other videos as well from the qualification, from the final race on Sunday. Keep watching our videos, like, subscribe, so that you don't miss any of our content. Thank you.